And to talk more about the latest inflation figures, we have joining us now for a discussion, Professor of Capital Market, Nasarawa State University, Professor Uche Waleke. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
All right. Inflation has continued to slow, recording 18.02% from 20.12% in August. What does this really mean for the economy?
Of course, it is cheering news that for 6 consecutive months now, we have witnessed drop in inflation rates, disinflation, as it were. And that's, of course, coming on the back of the harvest season in particular. This one is, the result is something that the common man can relate to in the sense that the major driver, was food, food inflation. Just as you read out there, prices of food items, actually dropped. Talking about beans, potatoes, tomatoes, and the rest of them. So the common man can actually relate to the fact that prices of these food items, dropped. And that's also why, if you check that report, it talked about deflation. As a matter of fact, deflation is where you have negative inflation rates. So on a month basis, okay, prices of these food items actually dropped. But what you also saw on a year-on-year basis is a slow rise, in the prices. Compared to this time last year, September last year, for example, prices rose by, food prices rose by, on the average, 18%. But again, if you disaggregate that, on month, the fact remains that for certain items, on the average, their prices actually dropped. That's why you saw those negative, numbers. And again, it's also important to observe that the stability we recorded in the exchange rate, or the naira appreciation, if you like, we witnessed in September, had a positive impact on the core inflation element, which now stands at below 20%. So I think it's remarkable, and I think it's something that needs to be sustained.
All right, many thanks, Prof. We keep hearing these numbers every time. How does it translate to affordable credits, purchasing power, and improved standard of living?
Yes, I've said it. This one in particular is something at least you can relate with. If you go to the market today to buy potatoes, for example, you end up buying it at a lower price. So we need to continue to push for lower headline inflation, particularly the food component that affects the common man. The central bank's target of 9%, is still, if you look at where we are today, we are still far off. So inflation remains high, inflation rate remains elevated. If you check all around us, when I mean all around, in Africa, for example, Nigeria's inflation remains one of the highest, even at 18.02%. Ghana is now having single-digit inflation. South Africa and the rest of them have single-digit inflation. As long as your inflation rate is high, your exchange rate will also be high. And that's also why you notice that, yes, we have witnessed stability in the exchange rate, but it has remained really sticky, downwards. And that's also because of inflation. If we're able to subdue inflation, significantly, particularly to single-digit level, you can bet that the naira will appreciate. You can bet that exchange rate will, will drop, and then the common man will begin to feel the impact of some of these positive macro numbers, that we're beginning to have.
All right. Many thanks, Prof. Very interesting, I must say. I'm excited about what you have said, and of course, Nigerians hope that the figures will continue to decrease. Looks like my colleague Benny would have a question for you before he takes up the business news. Benny.
Yes, Prof. At this time, I want to know, what are those indicators to grow with to ensure sustainability at this point? Yet, you mentioned if inflation is slowing down, we expect the cost of credit to also reduce. Yes, the central bank in their last monetary meeting reduced by 50 basis points. What should we be expecting going forward?
Yes, of course, if we have this experience by October, I am pretty sure the central bank will find more reason to further reduce the monetary policy rate. But talking about sustainability, the structural factors, are still there. Transport challenges, the issues of insecurity, and I'm happy that with respect to insecurity, something would appear to be, the government would appear to be addressing that. The issue of forest guards, I'm sure we go a long way to, handle that. And I'm also happy to note that currently the president is in Rome, involved in a high-level discussion on the fight against, terrorism, particularly with respect to West Africa. So I think going forward, all of this will, rub off positively on the inflation challenge that we have in this country.
All right, many thanks, Prof. It's indeed great speaking with you this evening on News Extra. I must say, just as the figures are dropping as far as inflation is concerned, you have also dropped the suit to take up the Babariga. Nice to see.
Thank you.